Everybody, welcome to Passing the Torch podcast. This is episode 1. And what makes this special is because this is the first time that we've done this as far as a podcast between Malia and I. And we're going to introduce ourselves real quick. We're going to talk about what Passing the Torch is. And we're also going to talk about our guest today, which is going to be something super special for everybody to listen to. So, my name is Evan Aaron Sebia. I'm the owner of Alta Commercial Capital, here with obviously the wonderful Malia. If you can introduce yourself as well.
Hey, I'm Malia Bliss. I'm the owner of Salt City Payments. But really, I'm here because I'm passionate about people. I'm passionate about building community and just about getting into the why of who people are and what they do. The main reason that we started this, Evan and I kind of were throwing ideas back and forth, and I found this quote, and this sets the tone for the entire podcast from today moving forward, and I want to share it with you. It is a quote by George Bernard Shaw. The quote is, "This is true joy in life, being used for a purpose recognized by yourself as a mighty one, being a force of nature instead of a feverish, selfish little clod of ailments and grievances, complaining that the world will not devote itself to making you happy." I am of the opinion that my life belongs to the whole community, and as long as I live, it is my privilege to do for it what I can. I want to be thoroughly used up when I die. For the harder I work, the more I live. I rejoice in life for its own sake. Life is no brief candle to me. It is a sort of splendid torch, which I have got a hold of for the moment, and I want to make it burn as brightly as possible before handing it on to future generations. So that's where we're
amazing.
starting from. We've got Steve here with us today. We were having an incredible conversation on Facebook probably a month ago or so. Evan had asked a question about storytelling and the importance of storytelling and why it matters. And Steve had some incredible answers. Part of it had to do with what he does, because he does consulting, and he dives deep into the different qualities of ourselves that make us who we are. And storytelling apparently is high in all of our 3 strengths. He does things with the Strengths Finder testing, and so for us, storytelling is such a magical space. But there's so much more that I probably don't even know. So I'm really, really excited for Steve to be able to share this stuff with us. So Steve, welcome.
This is great.
We're so excited you're here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm
so
pumped to be here. This is awesome.
Yeah, we're super excited about this podcast and having you as our first guest here. This is going to be an awesome podcast. And so really, Steve, tell us who you are. Who is the great Steve Baer? Tell us about yourselves.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. I consider it a super honor to be your first guest. So that's awesome. So who is Steve Baer? Well,
we're really excited that we're ready for it.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm a father of 7, married to my wonderful wife, Jenny. And I've always been kind of a free-spirited individual. From the moment I was born throughout life, I felt like life should be uplifting and fun. And at certain times in my life, it got down. Life got heavy. Life became a struggle. And so as I kind of think back on all the things that that have occurred to me, the traumatic and the good, and the neutral, one of the overriding patterns is this internal kind of fight that I've had with how can I be a free-spirited, fun-loving man and also be successful and serious and come to the table with an expertise that's valuable to other people, has an impact on them, and allows me to form, really solid, good connections. And at the end of the day, have results in my life that I can be proud of, that my children can be proud of, that my wife can be proud of, that my bank account can be proud of. all those things. So it's been kind of a journey. My adult life has been a journey of trying to figure that out. And I think I figured it out.
That's awesome.
That's exciting.
That's awesome.
What do you mean
Yeah,
by
no,
you?
that's fantastic.
What do you mean by you think you figured it out?
What I mean by that is it is very important for all of us, all human beings, to get their souls in alignment, to align themselves so that they are doing work that lights them up, that is authentic to who they are, that matches their passion for for living, that allows them to serve kind of a higher purpose, but gives them the freedom to do it their own way. We get to live life in a way that where we don't have to feel like we just have to copy somebody else's success formula and just eke out and discipline ourselves until we can, finally find, or we can duplicate somebody else's kind of magic sauce or special sauce. Instead, we just get to figure out what the special sauce is for each individual. And and do it in a way that celebrates individuality, but then in like a workplace and a professional setting, it allows people to come together and with the power of individuality, create awesome results for whatever the team or the organization is trying to accomplish. So
that's amazing.
That's what I did.
So with your background, so tell us a little bit about your background and how you basically got to this point. So tell us about your business. What is your business called?
So my business is called EICPR Consulting, and that acronym stands for Expertise, Impact, Connection, Productivity, and Results. Basically 5 things that every person, every individual contributor, every business owner wants to have in their professional life. They want to be considered an expert in something. They want their expertise to create some sort of impact on other people. They want to work with people and serve customers that they actually enjoy serving. And at the end of the day, they want to get stuff done and then have specific results that are in alignment with their kind of their deepest desires, whether that's a financial result or a personal health result or an organizational result. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So how this all started, my first career was in insurance. And it's funny, when I saw the job listing for my first job, it was to be a claims adjuster for an insurance company. But the thing that attracted me to that position was company car, work from home. And I was like, freedom.
That's fair.
Freedom. So I went to work for this really great company, really great insurance company, and put in 6 years on the road as a claims adjuster, handling everything from fatal car accidents to total loss house fires to just run of the mill homeowner claims and accident claims. But there was one time when I felt very upset because there was somebody who was kind of trying to pull a fast one on us. And he was one of those guys he was a nice guy, like just one of those guys who knew how to manipulate the system, was very professional, came across very professional, and just wanted us to cover something that I didn't feel like was appropriate to pay for. And I ended up like coming to the table with this intensity and this kind of like hard ass, like, no, I'm not going to pay this thing. Well, ultimately, in the long run, this guy sent a complaint into the company and escalated it all the way to the CEO of the insurance company.
Wow.
And this company that I worked for, they took complaints very seriously. Some insurance companies, they receive a complaint and they're like, oh, thanks, and I'll put it in the garbage bin and whatever. Yeah. But this company I worked for, they took them really seriously. So I was brought into my supervisor's office, and they kind of gave me a warning, like, hey, if you ever handle a claim like this again, there are going to be some serious consequences.
Wow.
Even though you were doing what you believe was right at the time, that still happened.
And you were trying to protect the company.
Right. Exactly. And so there's like all these like contesting values, like is the value to save money, is the value to serve the customer, is the value to whatever. And I remember on my way home, I pulled over and I was like, I called my wife and I was actually crying because it was such a frustrating experience.
Yeah, it's intense.
Yeah. And so I asked my wife, well, I was like, I'm just so upset about all this. And she said, honey, at the end of the day, what do they want you to do? I said, I think they just want me to make people happy. And she said, honey, then just make people happy. Even if that means you are overpaying, just make them happy. And so from that point on, I was like, all right, I'm going to make everybody happy, even if it means I'm overpaying things. And, within like a year and a half of that incident, I handled, a significant fire claim. And I was like, yep. Let me write the check. Yep. Yes, I'll do that. I'll pay for that. And then that person sent in a presidential compliment. So that one went all the way up to the CEO. And then like I won this award for, best customer service, offered by a claims adjuster in the entire country. So I was like, all right, just make people happy. Anyway, I was promoted. I became a supervisor and walked into this new setting. And I was like, man, it's so stale in here. It's just so people are downtrodden. And it's almost like that office was not the same company that I had been working for, even though it was.
Oh, wow.
And anyway, after being there, long enough, there was a fellow who I supervised, and he came to me and he's like, man, Steve, I just really appreciate how you do things, because it's like when you walked into this office, it was like somebody opened up a window and a gust of fresh air just came through the entire building. So I was like, okay, well, I'm the levity guy. Yeah,
That's a great compliment.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I just decided, okay, I'm the levity guy. I'm the fun guy. I'm the fun supervisor. But guess what? They didn't want to promote the fun supervisor. They wanted some, they wanted certain qualities out of the people that they'd continue promoting up the chain. And then in the meantime, my wife gets involved in a network marketing business and starts making some pretty good money with that. And I get that entrepreneurial bug, and somebody in my downline was like, "Hey, let's start up an e-commerce store." And I was like, "Sure." And so within a few months of deciding to start up that e-commerce store, and that was going pretty well, and our network marketing business was going well, I was like, you know what? Forget this whole job thing. I'm going to go be an entrepreneur. So I started an e-commerce business. We grew it from 0 to 1.2 million in about 3 years.
Wow.
Lots of work, lots of hustle. Ended up selling my half of that to my friend and former business partner. And then after that opportunity ended, another friend of mine said, "Hey, Steve, I'm building this personal coaching business, this leadership development company, and I need a right-hand man. Will you come in and help me build that?" So I worked with him for about 3 years, building his business and his kind of his frameworks. And that was all focused on the Clifton Strengths program. Mm-hmm. And then ultimately, I was like, you know what? Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, when did you first get connected into the Strengths Finder, Clifton? What is it again? The Clifton Strengths Finder? Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's called the Clifton Strengths Finder. And
is that when you first got connected?
So I actually became aware of it. I became aware of it during my first stint in the corporate world, because the Strengths Finder program is very much geared towards Fortune 500 type companies. Like that's who they like to work with.
Gotcha.
And then the network marketing business I was a part of, and still am a part of, is doTERRA. And so we were at a leadership conference for them, and then they had rolled out the StrengthsFinder program to all the doTERRA people and said, hey, it's time to build your businesses and your strengths. And then a friend of mine who's a top leader in doTERRA really just kind of, dug into the content in a different way, kind of came up with some different frameworks and concepts and started teaching it differently, but teaching it to people who weren't the corporate types, and teaching it to people who weren't the successful types, and helping them kind of find their own voice and their own self-confidence. And so, we had about 1,500 members of a private coaching community. We did a coaching certification program, and ultimately the reason I'm doing what I'm doing is because I enjoy business to business work. I like personal coaching, but I feel more important when I do business to business.
Fair.
And it's important for me to feel important.
Totally.
Is that something that your strengths tells you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which one?
It actually does. So that's a great question. In my initial, in the initial strengths report I took, there's a strength called significance. And I think, Evan, you might have this one kind of high. But significance is a strength that says, I want to be seen, and I want to be seen doing something important, and I want to be seen doing something important with other important people. And it was like number 14 of my strengths. And so for those who aren't aware of the program, StrengthsFinder takes 34 strengths in 4 different categories. And when you take the assessment, it orders the strengths from 1 to 34. So the higher the strength is, the more energy and excitement there is towards that quality. The lower it is, actually, the more negativity is associated with that.
And real quick, I just want to add something for the listeners here. So this, and Steve's obviously going to get into this a little bit more, but Malia and I actually both tested this ourselves.
Yeah, with Steve.
Because we're all business owners here. And so, we each had our one-on-one with Steve at one point. We're like, hey, let's see what this looks like. And I remember when Steve sent me my little chart that goes over my strengths and my weaknesses and really what my focus should be. And it was incredible because some of the things that we're focusing on, our energy that we have, like we may be focused on things that are eating up a lot of our personal energy.
Yeah.
But we're doing everything as business owners, right? We're doing everything, jack of all trades in some cases. But when it kind of shows you, hey, actually, you probably shouldn't be spending your energy on this specific thing. Maybe you can hire somebody to focus on that area. It kind of just allows you to let it go, almost like in a therapy way, which is kind of crazy. And that's something that Steve did bring up in the conversation that we had. Malia, you had your own conversation. And so I do find that very interesting, and I'm glad that you brought that up for the audience, because it is a really cool system about that. So anyways, I
gotta add, like, it was so much fun. It was such a good time. And because one, you get to sit there and you're talking about yourself the entire time, which, like, let's be honest, everyone likes that. Whether you're introverted or extroverted, you actually really love talking about yourself and getting to know yourself more. And what Steve's really great at is helping you feel seen and heard in that. And it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's 100% me. One of my high strengths was woo. And I was like, I mean, I knew I was woo-woo, but like, because I love all my weird spiritual stuff. But like, I was like, what do you mean? I didn't know you could test for that. But I found out that it actually means wins others over. And it is a high strength of mine. I love people, and it was just so much fun seeing it, because like the things that I truly am good at were up there, and then the things that I'm truly not good at were like not there.
That's true.
And it was actually really, really cool though, because Steve was like, yeah, no, like these aren't where your strengths are. Like, this is not where you should be spending all of your time doing things. You absolutely, like, as you grow, as things happen, you probably will need to hire someone that is, that has some of these strengths that you're missing. or that aren't as high on. Like it's not that you can't do the things. It's just that you're
Oh yeah,
not.
but it just
You're a fish out of water at that point. You're doing it.
you're focusing on something that's probably better for somebody else to focus on.
Exactly. And so I loved the
Mm-hmm.
value in all of that because it just allowed you to be like, yeah, no, these really are the things. It validated where you are, and like it helps you to see how you need to hire and where you need to maybe put it, like find someone that can bolster you up a little bit more. So
Exactly.
it was so much fun, Steve. I seriously loved it.
It's definitely a cool product. And so, with that being said, Steve, it sounds like you kind of started from obviously insurance and claims adjusting, and you're working your way up, and then getting into network marketing, which basically brought out this entrepreneurship spirit that you had. But why don't you tell us about this company that you have now? What are some of the challenges that because a lot of people are going to be listening to this and they're going to be wondering, man, like we're all dealing with stuff. We all have our own issues that we deal with as a business, but what are some of the challenges that you faced when you were starting this new company?
So it's interesting that you bring that up because um, I never considered myself to be the alpha in any kind of business relationship. And so when my wife started her network marketing business, I was like, okay, she's the alpha, I'm the support person. Awesome. And then when this friend of mine said, hey, will you help me with e-commerce? I'm like, okay, great. You're the alpha, I'm the support person. And then same thing with the leadership development company. You're the alpha, I'm the support person. And then I'm stepping into this space where I'm like, and I'm going to be really, I'm going to be spiritual and religious here. But I'm like, okay, I'm the alpha.
Platform's yours, man.
Thank you. I was like, okay, I'll be the alpha, but not really. I want God to be the alpha of my business. And I want to do business in partnership with somebody who's going to guide me the right way and not based on their whims. It's like, oh, this is what I think we should do. Hey, Steve, help me do this thing. Instead, it's like listening to the whisperings of the Holy Spirit saying, hey, try this idea. And I'm going to share two examples of how this has happened already for me. The first one is, anytime you're starting up a new business, if you have proof that what you do is valuable to other people, then your only problem is marketing.
Yep.
But a lot of people actually get into business without that proof. And this happens a lot in network marketing, especially, where it's like, oh, here's this cool product. Now go sell it. And they have no proof that the product's going to work for that person. They have no proof that if they try to recruit them to become a distributor, that person's going to be successful. I mean, these people are like walking on with faith. And that's why sometimes MLM work is kind of viewed as like, oh, it's like a religion. It's like a cult. But you have people who are trying to do things and they just don't have that proof of concept behind them. And so when I was in that in-between stage, I was like, okay, I know it's going to take some time to get the word out about this new venture that I'm doing. And so I had this prayer in my heart, like, okay, well, how do I provide for my family today? And one morning I woke up and it was like this clear instruction. It was like, talk to these people, offer them a 2-year mastermind, weekly support, come together to help people scale their entrepreneurial efforts and to kind of take everything that they've done to the next level. And I knew exactly who I should reach out to. And so right off the bat, I was like, okay, here's these 20 people. Here's how much it's going to cost. And let's form this mastermind group. And it worked. It has worked. It worked to put that idea out there and the money came in. And then, a little while later, the ideas that I had, especially going into our networking group, was to offer free demos for your networking, group members. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to do free demos for all these people to help get the word out. And that's been successful. But then the real awesome thing was, I was kind of stressed a little bit about the money, and that just happens when you're starting a business, just stressed about the money.
Of course.
Always.
And yeah. I'm at church, and in one of the meetings, there's a message about, helping one another. And so I stepped out of the meeting, and I thought, when the meeting was done, I thought, okay, who can I ask for help? And it was like, ask blank. And the name was just like clear as day, ask him. So the next opportunity I had to see him, I said, hey, I've got this new business that I've started, and this is what I'm working on. And I'm wondering if you could help me get the word out. And he's like, well, yeah, let's talk about what you're doing. And I said, well, let me demo for you the process. Let me show you what I do. And then you can kind of speak intelligently about it.
Were they pretty receptive of that?
Yeah. This person was.
They were like, because you felt that you needed to talk to this person, and so you did, which takes a lot of courage to listen to your gut and listen to your faith, And so when you went up to this person and you said, hey, I want to demo this, they were just like, yeah, I'm here to support you.
Yeah. He was so supportive.
That's very cool.
So supportive. So I demoed it for him, and while I'm demoing, he's like emailing his management team, and he says, okay, I'm emailing my team right now. I'm telling them, hey, this is what I want to do, and this is how much it's going to cost, and then I'll let you know what they say. And anyway, that ended up being my first substantial gig in this new business.
Nice.
That's fantastic.
It's a milestone.
Yeah, it was huge. It was to coach the management team of a multi-million-dollar nutraceutical company.
Wow.
And individuals that have 300,000 plus followers on Instagram. Those kind of high level, high performing people. People who are running businesses with venture capital. And so I completed that gig, and my friend, he's like, that was so good. He's like, I'm convinced that we didn't pay you enough. And I said,
that's
great. That's great feedback.
It was. Anyway, it was just such, it was the validation that I needed, but it's also even telling you this story and all the listeners out there who are hearing this. It's like, bring God into your business, especially if you're doing something like legit and good for the world. If you're doing something kind of shady, then, God might tell you to do something different.
The smiting will come down.
But it's just like, I'm like, I got to bring God into my business. I got to partner with him. And so far that has paid major dividends, and it's paid dividends in a way that is keeping me humble still. I'm like, I haven't made it. I haven't gotten to the point where, I'm raking in the dollars hand over fist, but boy, do I feel good about what I'm doing. So
totally.
So
that's amazing, man.
For the entrepreneurs,
that's fantastic.
I love to help the entrepreneurs feel like they can do it, that they can take this assessment, and that the assessment gives them enough insight for them to say, okay, here's my action plan to do it. And then for organizations to go in and talk to a management team and say, okay, you know what, here's so-and-so, here are their strengths. Here are some of the rules that they abide by. Did you know that they have this rule? And they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize. And then I facilitate these discussions where people are like, oh, now I understand why you do what you do. Oh, I get it now.
Yeah.
And I've got...
It makes sense.
There was that one time...
Fantastic.
There was that one time we were all in our power team at BNI, because that's how we three know each other. We are part of a BNI group together. And we were all
Real quick,
oh, sorry.
what is BNI for people who don't know what BNI is? What is BNI?
BNI is Business Networking International. It is a international business networking group. There's, I think, somewhere around like 6,500 different chapters all around the world. There's like 3,500 in the States, and we're somewhere.
And we're all in
we're
one.
all in one, and we're like one of the top, what, 3 or 2 in the nation. Like we keep kind of doing this between a couple of other BNI chapters growing and whatnot. But we are a very large group, and we have a really good time together, truthfully. I'm convinced that we do our BNI like the right way, because we are all like, we care about each other. It's not business. It's not just like we're, tight, laced and sitting there being all business. Like, we have a good time. Steve got on the table a couple weeks ago. He did a great impression.
Awesome.
My commercial yesterday was kind of inappropriate. So that commercial was kind of inappropriate.
But one of the, he actually, a really interesting thing happened in one of our power teams, which is we have like smaller groups within our big group that we all get together. So those of us that are business to business, which all 3 of us are on that team.
Mm-hmm.
And we were sitting there, and I that day had like won 3 different awards that month for doing the most things in, like, it was a whole thing. And I was like embarrassed by it, truthfully. Because I wasn't out to like win.
Well, you're good at it.
But I wasn't out to win. Like, that's the truth. Like, I really wasn't. And one of the guys was like, competition, you're the one, and to me about it. And I was like, no, not at all. And Steve was like, he's like, no, I got the receipts. Like, he pulled out like his book and like switched back to where we had met. And he was like, she does not care about competition at all. She cares about people. And that's really the only reason why she does so well in this stuff, is because she's in it for the people. Like, she literally doesn't care if anyone wins. And the next month, people did surpass me, and I was like, yes! I was so excited because I care about the people, not like, it's not a competition. We're all in it. Like, the more that we all succeed, the more that we all win together. And so, like, but Steve was like, no. Like, he literally was like, this is right here. She doesn't care. So it was really cool seeing that in a group dynamic. And I
remember that.
I assume that's how it works in a company as well. That you're like, no. Like, this part does not matter to her. She's not trying to do that. And, this person isn't trying to do this either. This is what they're trying to do. Is that how it ends up going a lot of times when you're in groups like that?
Yeah. In fact, one example from this last training that I did is there was an individual who has a lot of strengths that indicate that he likes lots of structure and processes and rules, and please hold to the rules, please keep the rules. And then among all of those strengths
sounds like my mama.
One, and it's called yeah. And it's called includer. The includer strength is a relationship building strength that just wants to welcome people in and say, hey, I want to hear your voice. I want to hear your perspective. I want to hear what you have to say on this. And this particular person had that strength, just right there in the middle. And so we got to talk about, I was like, what does this strength mean for you? Like, this is what the strength is. How does that show up for you in your life? And he's like, I just think that the more voices we have, the better when we're trying to make an important decision. So, I don't like it when I feel like I'm getting railroaded or getting forced to do something. I like to make sure that we're hearing other people's opinions before we make a final decision. And so everybody was like, oh, okay, all right. So when it comes to that person, he wants to make sure that voices are heard. And he was very self-aware to say, not everybody's voice. Like, there's people who have no say in this matter. But what that actually told me is that he values his voice in the management team, and he wants his voice to be heard. And so his strengths say, I want other people's voices to be heard. but it's actually him saying, no, I want my voice heard within this management team. And so that's what we got to kind of bring to the surface, and people are like, oh, right. Okay. That's how, you got to make sure
That is really cool.
So was it that like what you were seeing within the group that maybe they weren't listening to other voices very effectively, and because of that they were having management issues?
Well, actually, this is a very high functioning group. So this was a good group, and it
Oh,
was
okay,
like,
great.
here's how you can take it to the next level. So I wasn't even working with a dysfunctional group. This was very high
Oh,
performing
okay.
group. But in this case, what it meant for everybody else was well, let me back up. A couple of the people who really lead the team are they have the strengths that all three of us have, which is activator, which is like ready, fire, aim. Like, let's just go do the thing, make it happen. Don't think about how we're going to do it. Just start. And you two have that strength super duper high. So that's a very high energy space for both of you.
Yeah. We're gonna make a mess.
But,
Yeah.
There's a saying for it. F around and find out.
Right.
Yeah.
And so guy. Go ahead, Evan.
Oh, go ahead. Finish. No, you go ahead. Just finish what you're going to say.
Okay. So for this guy, he's like, please don't make a mess that I have to clean up later. Can you just hear my voice first and then go make your mess? But at least you know how I feel about the matter. And then they're like, yeah, okay, we can do that. So he, and so
that's
those are
it just helps the communication so that no one feels upset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's so cool.
It's a really cool, it's a really cool system that you have going on. And I think looking back at companies that I've worked for, I know that all of us have worked for, sometimes we feel when you go work at a job, and let's say you're part of an executive team or a management team and you're all kind of grinding together, at least for me, I won't speak for you guys, but I remember not really considering other people's feelings as well as I probably should have, because we're all have one goal, and that's to, hey, this is my job. I was hired to do this. This is your job. This is your title. But in my perspective, when I look at somebody, it's like, well, your title is this. That's all you do. But if we bring in something like that Steve can bring to the table, where it would help me understand, okay, if me and Malia are on a team, Malia thinks this way. And if she's in my team and I'm managing her, I know that that's not her. I mean, it just makes sense to have that kind of structure for people. And so I kind of want to bring it out to another question for you. Let's kind of, Steve, kind of bring it back outside of business for a second here, because like you mentioned, you are doing this for a greater cause. You're doing this for yourself and your family. You want to, ideally at the end, we're all business owners. We have a purpose, and that's to take care of ourselves, our family, to get to a greater goal and whatever we're working towards. So let's talk about work-life and balance for a second. So let's talk about that. I mean, there's a lot of listeners that are starting a business or that are already in business. They've been doing it for years even. Who knows? But right now, with everything you got going on, you're a busy guy, and you have an awesome platform that a lot of people should know about and use, quite honestly. How are you right now managing your work-life balance as an entrepreneur?
I have always put my family first before anything. And so if I'm working on something like building a funnel or building a website, and then I have a child over here who's like, Dad, I'm like, okay. And I put that on pause, and then I go, and that part of that is my nature. I truly do adapt to the needs of the people around me, and I actually enjoy that. I enjoy that they kind of give me direction on what it is that I'm supposed to be doing. But sometimes it frustrates me because I'm like, I've got these projects that are kind of piling up. And so, so for me personally, it's recognizing, okay, for a short period of time as a business owner, for a short period of time, I'm going to work in a space where I am doing things that don't necessarily energize me. but I'm just gonna put my nose to the grindstone. I'm gonna make this thing happen, and then as soon as I possibly can, I am going to outsource the crap out of that thing and send that to somebody else.
That's key right there. Let's talk about that for a second. Actually, I think that's so important for people to realize is that kind of going, and you probably can see a really good perspective, again, doing what you already do and seeing your strengths and weaknesses. And so outsourcing. So what does that mean? Are you using people locally? Are you having family members help you? Are you using services like VAs? And if people don't know what that is, it's a virtual assistant that you can hire either locally, nationally, or internationally, like the Philippines. So tell us more about that. So you figured out, okay, I'm going to make things as efficient as I can. I need to hire something else now. Tell us about that so people can hear about it.
Yeah. Well, I'll talk about it in particular in relation to another business that I own, which is a natural deodorant business. So we have a formula for natural deodorant that works really effectively. And my wife and I are ready to scale this thing. We're ready to really, because we bought this business about 1.5 years ago, proven formula, we have repeat customers. So it's now just time to get it in front of more people. And so just the other day, I
said, cool.
If this business is actually going to grow, I can't grow it. I don't have, I have the strengths to pick the right people to help grow this business. But for me to do the things and the ideas that I have, because I have this whole marketing plan for this business that I'm really excited about. But for me to actually go and implement it, it's probably going to turn out like crap if I implement the idea. So the idea by itself is brilliant, but if I implement it, it's going to turn out crappy. And if I get sucked into the implementation of this idea, I'm just going to get frustrated and discouraged and want to quit. So why
now is that because you have a lower executing skills? Because I have low executing skills, almost all of them. I think one of them might be in the top 25 of mine, and all the rest of them are the bottom 6. Executing is just not a thing that is my best strength. My best strength is people. And so is that because your executing strengths are similar?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
My number 34.
How cool is that?
Yeah, my number 34 strength is discipline. My number 33 is consistency, which is actually a strength about building systems and processes. So Mark Olson, during our meeting yesterday, he has that consistency strength right at the top. He's perfect for building processes and systems, lead automation. So I'm like, okay, Mark's my guy when I get to that point. But for my vision of this marketing plan, I was like, I need to hire somebody who's I see the vision and I can execute it. So I had a meeting with a gentleman and he's like, I see the vision. I've got tons of ideas. I like your ideas. Let's make it happen. It's going to cost me a boatload of money, but at least it's going to happen instead of me thinking about
the investment is worth it. Yes.
Yeah.
Totally.
That's so cool.
Totally.
I love understanding yourself.
Yeah. And in the past, before understanding this system, I would have just gotten sucked into the execution of it. And then I would have gotten discouraged and said, oh, my ideas suck because I can't execute them or because I'm poor at executing them. Instead, my ideas are brilliant. And when I hire somebody to execute them, they turn out brilliantly.
That is that perspective change is amazing, because that's totally been my life story too. There's so many times I'm I'm just bad at making things work. But it's not that. I'm phenomenal at showing up. I'm phenomenal at ideas. I'm phenomenal at people interaction. And I didn't used to be, truthfully, but when I was a child, I was not. But it was something I cared about so much. And that was something I think I read on your Facebook recently, that you said that we choose our strengths. because it's the spaces that we put the most emphasis on. And so it's like, I've always loved people, but as a kid, I was autistic. I am autistic, and I didn't know how to communicate. And so it was something I had to like figure out and stumble and fail a lot. But because I cared about it so much, it has become one of my greatest strengths. Um, so do you
That's awesome.
like, there's things with discipline I'm really good at too, but I still hate it. So
Yeah.
is that it's still something I can do, but I hate it. And so I don't know I'm not quite sure how to form that question.
Let
What
me
does that end
answer.
up looking like?
Well,
You can hear the
so
question. I
well,
just can't
I can
enunciate.
totally hear the question. This is the answer I'd give to the question I'm hearing. When it comes to our strengths, I almost categorize them in three areas. There are strengths that are part of our nature. Like,
Hmm.
you know, some of us by nature are very fun and bubbly people. Like when we were babies and people are like, oh, he's so cute. She's so cute. I love this little baby. You know, like they smile, they
Yes.
light up. So some of our strengths are just part of our nature. Part of our
Hmm.
strengths are part of our nurture, who we lived
Hmm.
with, who raised us. And so we have to choose like, okay, I was nurtured to be this. Is that still supportive for me? Do I want
Mm.
that?
Hmm.
Or
Hmm.
is that something I'm ready to jettison? Because it actually causes a lot of problems for me. And then the third one
Right.
is our strengths by virtue of our circumstances or our experiences, where we've
Hmm.
been put, we chose
That
into
makes sense.
certain experiences in our life. And in the course of seeing those experiences out, we're like, oh, well, I'm actually really good at this.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll keep doing that thing. And anyway, so sometimes when people take a strengths assessment, you know, especially if they're not very self-aware, if they're really struggling with areas of self-confidence,
Hmm.
that first time they take a strengths assessment, it's almost like, hey, let's explore this for the purpose of healing your self-confidence.
Hmm. I love
Definitely.
that.
That's kind of what I
Yeah.
saw out of it too. I mean that because here's the thing: as business owners, we're always dealing with things
Yes.
every single day. Something new pops up that we deal with, either that's at our homes or in business or out in the field, whatever. We're online dealing with a customer that wants the most money possible for their appraisal, whatever they want. So it's really important to for the listeners, if you're starting a business and you are or you already have started a business, I think it's important to connect with people like Steve that can show you your strengths and show you even your weaknesses. And sometimes that's like kind of like a hard thing to accept. Like, I'm not weak, you know,
I'm
I'm
totally weak.
perfect. You know, I have
That's
zero
all true.
weaknesses, which sorry,
Lies.
I
Lies.
see Taco Bell when I drive by and I'm immediately weak. I have to buy it. So, you know, but so I wanted to ask you, Steve. So we're getting close here toward the end here of our podcast. So I want to ask you a few questions here. Let's kind of talk to the audience, the people that are going to listen to this in the future. What advice do you have for a business owner that could be any niche that they're in? What advice do you have for a business owner who are thinking about starting their own businesses? What kind of advice would you give them?
Yeah. My first, it's to talk to me. But the talking to
True,
somebody else
true
Yes.
that.
that can help you. I call it an authentic marketing plan, which is, you know,
Hmm.
especially this comes up a lot, especially when I work with people who are trying to create some kind of side hustle related to coaching, you know, or network marketing, where
Hmm.
especially in network
Sure.
marketing, they've been told to, you know, to sell the products a certain way, like they're super uber influencer, you know, like Instagram worthy upline, who's like, well, this is how I sell the products and this is how I sign all the people up. Just do this. And then those people are like, I can't be like that person. And so what I do
Yeah.
is I'll look at somebody's strengths report and we'll actually go through it and say, okay, so here are the things that you get to talk about how you serve customers, how you like to, um, especially how you like to, like the results that you like to deliver people based on your strengths. Also identifying, using their strengths, who the right people are for them. And Evan, you and I talked about this in your individual session where you're like, certain people who need like all the details and all the data, all the information in order to make a decision, and they mull it over and over and over and over again in their head. You were like, you know what? Those are not necessarily my people. I don't like to service those.
True. I can't. I honestly, I have a 2-week window. Quite literally, I work with someone for 2 weeks. If it's past that, I close out their file and I say, "Hey, when you're ready, come back." I just had a client yesterday that I kind of closed out 2 months ago, but I let it go out of my mind because I can't chase people. I'm not a chaser. So you're absolutely right. I can't chase people. It's not what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's something.
But I didn't know that.
Well, you were subconsciously aware of it. Subconsciously, you're like, yeah, I don't like to chase people. And then to have your report and for me to say, hey, you don't, these are the kind of people you don't like to work with. You're like, oh, that explains it. But then it explains it in a way that eliminates shame. It eliminates like, oh, I don't have to feel bad. Approaching it like this.
Yeah.
I just know that those.
So I think that's key. And I think you're absolutely right, because obviously there's multiple things that we can offer advice to somebody, right, when they're first getting started out. And I think you're absolutely right. Kind of, if somebody is brand new, starting a business, they're just getting into an idea or a side hustle or a potential online business or whatever you're going to do, really, it's good to connect with Steve and kind of figure out what your strengths are. Because honestly, if you have a roadmap, like you said, and you can, okay, I know exactly what my strength and weakness is. I can start a business, and maybe that business isn't what I should be doing anyways. What tools right now, I guess maybe some resources other than obviously what you can offer, what are some resources that you use or tools that are helping you build your business?
Tools that are helping me right now, honestly, the biggest one is networking. I mean, find networking groups. Find networking groups that I love BNI because it keeps people accountable. People have to show up.
Yes.
People have to give referrals. And if you don't, you're going to get kicked out of the chapter. But network with people. I mean, I fell into the trap at one point in my entrepreneurial experience where it was like, oh, if I just find the right online thing, and then put that out there, then it will work. And what learning my strengths helped me understand was that, like, yeah, I could sit behind a computer and come up with a really good strategy for building a business online. But at the end of the day, I like being with people. I like interacting with people. So that's one of my strengths. Therefore,
same.
Guess what? Go up and meet people. Now, some of you are like, I don't like people. Like going out and charming other people is not my thing. You might be thinking that. And so based on your strengths, there could be like, hey, go do a certain program, follow the program specifically to the T, implement the program as they instruct you to do it. And then because if they have those strengths, we're like, oh yeah, I'll just follow the instructions. I'll do all the things. Then that could be the right first step for them. Other people, who are kind of visionary, like visionary people don't belong in jobs unless
they don't belong in what?
They're visionary. Visionary people don't belong in jobs unless their visionary.
Yes.
Yeah. Unless their visionary thinking is invited and appreciated. But if they're just told, hey, don't think all visionary. Here's the thing I need you to do. Just do that thing.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does.
That makes a lot of sense for like jobs that I've been at where I'm just like, you guys are doing it wrong. This is how it's supposed to.
Yeah.
Like, am I the crazy one?
Yes.
Like, and it's like, this guy's crazy, but then I'm like, okay, I'll just start my own company and I just prove my point.
Yeah.
I get that. I love it, man. This has been a great interview, and I really do appreciate that. I know we both do. let's kind of wrap things up here. So let's kind of talk about this podcast for a second. So the idea of this podcast is passing the torch.
Yeah.
There's a reason why. And Malia, you kind of started it, and I'll
Yeah.
kind of let you end it here. So what is passing the torch, and what are we going to ask Steve?
So passing the torch is we want to, one, we're passing on the wisdom that we have to others through voice, through audio, through all these things. But we also want to pass the torch in and connect each podcast via a question that you have for the next person that we are going to interview. And so it's kind of a question for you of like, where are you struggling? What do you like? What would you like someone else's input on? And since considering you talk about strengths and all these things constantly, like I feel like this is like the perfect place to start.
Yeah, my biggest struggles are all tactical related, especially with marketing, because it's like, all right, I know who I like. Networking is great. What I do, clarity on what I do is great. But the tactical step-by-step instructions to put an offer out there, for a lead generating offer, where it's just like, hey, I just want a list of emails, putting out, and so it's almost like you should interview Mark Olson next, because all my questions would be directed to somebody like Mark.
To Mark. Yeah.
But yeah, all of my struggles are surround the tactical nature of marketing and how to get the most bang for my buck.
Makes sense.
With certain strategies, and have somebody come to the table and say, okay, here's everything that I've done. Here's what I think, would work for you. And then I'm going to go implement it for you. I'm like, yes, I like that idea. Go. Run.
So the next guest that we have will answer that question, or I guess problem potentially that you have is, okay, I need help with marketing, but there's so much marketing out there. What is the right marketing for me, and what's the best bang for my buck? It sounds like you don't want to waste time. You want to be efficient with the marketing strategies that you receive, and you're trusting that if it works, you want to make sure that it works right. So for the next guest, does that sound pretty much what you're asking?
Yeah. Like, I don't want to mess around anymore with marketing dollars. It's like, just tell me the best thing to do.
Okay.
What's the best thing?
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
okay. Well, that sounds good. That is the idea of passing. No, that's great.
Perfect.
So we'll use that for the next guest. And I just want to say, Malia, Steve, thank you so much. Obviously, this is our episode 1. We're going to have many more coming in the future. And Steve, thank you so much. It was so good to hear about your story. It was awesome to hear about where you started. I love that you put God first, and you have this intuition about yourself that you know what to trust. You have a program that people can trust and rely on it to really help better themselves. And at the end of the day, you also need help in marketing, and you have your own things that you're still working towards. So the most important thing is, Steve, where can someone find you? How can if somebody wanted to become a customer, if somebody wanted to do a demo with you, if somebody wanted to just connect with you, how can we find you?
Yeah, best place to find me, EICPR.com. There's a freebie on there, so it's like, hey, I'd like to learn a little bit more about Steve or about some of these methodologies and frameworks that I use. I have a freebie that you can grab and review there, and then on that website is a request to do a demo, and it's a low cost demo, because I know that people have a budget, but they're also not sure yet if it's the right thing. So we just want to have you get this information at a low entry point, and then go from there. And if for any for any Latter-day Saints in the audience, I have a podcast that is geared towards faith and religion. It's called the Latter-day Strength Podcast. You can find it on Apple Podcasts.
Oh, cool.
To connect with me if you are more like, hey, let's talk about religion and spirituality and the gospel and that kind of stuff. So
Very cool.
That's awesome. Great. Well, thank you so much. Malia, is there anything else you'd like to throw on there?
No, just that this has been a fantastic time, which is something that's really, really high on my values list because I like to have fun. So I have had such a good time chatting with you, Steve, and just diving a little bit deeper into why the strengths matter, like why our individual strengths matter, and how it can help us grow our businesses, and how it can help us to like I loved when you were like, yeah, like I have all these amazing ideas, but I couldn't execute on them. And so finding someone to take care of that part for me was really important. And like it just spoke to me in so many ways because it's the truth. We have some similar strengths. And it just that is the truth. I'm really good at the visionary and the high level stuff and the interfacing with the people, but like okay, let's get on my computer and make all of the things work is I want to throw my computer half the time when I have to do stuff like that. So this has just been amazing. I appreciate both of you, and I look forward to asking our next interviewee
Yes.
guest, I don't know, client, but inviting them and being able to ask them that question, and hopefully get you some really clear answers and like find out what else we have like that's coming. Like it's good. I'm so excited for this. It's going to be so much fun.
Yeah, me too.
it's
Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. And so, all right. So this is episode 1 in closing, passing the torch. Thank you so much, Steve Baer. You're the man. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks.
And all right, until next time, you can find us on Spotify and Apple and pretty much any other channel.
Yep.
You'll find us there. And you can find us as well on Facebook. You just look us up on Google. You can find us. And we look forward to your review. Please leave us a review of what you thought about this podcast. And we very much look forward to our next guest and answering our first question from Steve, passing the torch. All right, we're out. Thank you so much, guys.
Bye, guys.
Take care.